The third misconception is, and I'm gonna have to look at my notes, so bear with me. The VA will do a good job going through my medical records and finding my conditions. Now, I will say I have some friends at the VA. I have also some retired VA Raider friends, and there are some very good people. There's a lot of people bashing the VA. I speak highly of the VA. I believe that there are some folks there, that many of the folks there that are doing their best to put the pieces of the story together. But let me give you some insight from what one of my friends have told me, who is a retired Raider. He said we will get stacks of records, 2,500 pages, all over the place, right? Just disconnected medical records. And we would have to try to put the pieces of the puzzle together. Oh, by the way, we have a quota that we're given that we have to meet by the VA in terms of completing and rating um, conditions. And so here at this particular case, these raiders have a lot of pressure. They don't have a lot of time to put all of the pieces and to dig through the medical record to see exactly what the story is. I mean, think about it. For those of you who have gone through your medical records, how long did it take you to review it? Did you just look at the problems list and say, oh, yeah? Or did you really review and see what was being said and see what the evidence was showing about your condition? So it takes a lot of time. My recommendation and my tip to you is don't fall into this misconception trap as well. Because if you take the time to put the medical record story together for them and guide them through what you want them to see, you want to show your story. This person that you are building the story for is invisible. You're never going to meet them. You're going to see doctors, you're going to see a CNP examiner, but the most important invisible person in the room is the rater, the evaluator, who is going to take all this information and assign a rating for you. And that rating has a compensation that's attached to it. So the stakes are very high in this situation. Remember, I talked about what regrets would you have if you just let the military decide? So I bring that question into this misconception. What regrets would you have if you just let the VA decide without you putting the information together for them to make sure that you put your best foot forward, that you organized it, that you reviewed it, and that you showed them and connected the dots? Yes, there are some that just will give their medical records and they say, hey, I got 100%, I'm good to go. Every case is different. But I would not just rely on just somebody you know, who just said that their records were just discombobulated and they got 100%. Take the time to organize it. Take the time to create your story. So I ask you a couple of questions. What is your story? What is your medical story? Are you willing to own that story? And if you're willing to own that story, how are you going to communicate that medical story to others so this way they can understand you? So, what is your story? Are you willing to own that story? And how are you going to communicate that story to others so that they can understand that story? And if you can answer all three of those questions in the affirmative, that you know your story and that you owned it, you own those injuries, and that you are willing to get others to understand your story, then let's do some research because this is about you and yours. This process right here is about you and yours. Let's do some research to understand the process, to understand the options that you have. Let's take that time. Let's put the story together so that the VA rater, the most important and invisible person in the room, can understand and rate you properly. So don't fall into this trap of just handing it and just believing that someone else is going to put the story together for you. Do it yourself. Engage, take ownership.